In order to develop lots of power on your topspin ground strokes, you have to make great use of the lower body. The secret is to coil and uncoil the legs at the right time, and all of the top players do this in exactly the same manner. In this video, we're going to take a look at Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal and how they make great use of the lower body to generate tremendous amounts of energy. And then I'll show you a drill on how you can incorporate the same principle into your own shots. Now let's take a look at Roger Federer first.
Roger begins his motion by turning the upper body and coiling the legs. As you can see here, his legs are bent quite a bit when he is in position to hit his forehand. He has coiled the upper body and the lower body, which will result in lots of power when he uncoils into the shot. As he begins the forward swing, Roger uncoils the legs, which you can see right here. He is using a semi-open stance and his outside leg completely straightens out. In this process, lots of energy gets transferred from his legs to his upper body and then finally into the arm. This is a principle that we see on all great topspin ground strokes. Now let's take a look at the same thing on Roger's backhand. Roger's using a neutral or even slightly close stance on this one-handed backhand, and with this stance we will see that the front leg straightens out as he uncoils. Okay, so that was Roger Federer, but what about the other players? Let's take a look at Rafael Nadal. Nadal hits one of the biggest forehands the game has ever seen, and once again we will see that he makes great use of the lower body. Nadal also gets into this fully coiled position with the legs bent and the upper body turned. As we can see here, the fully coiled position with the semi-open stance looks almost identical for Roger and Rafa. From here, Nadal also starts to uncoil from the legs, generating tremendous amounts of energy in the process. And as we can see here, Nadal's outside leg has also fully straightened out in the process. Last but not least, let's take a look at the same principle on Rafa's two-handed backhand. Here we see him in the fully coiled position with the upper body turned and the legs bent. Now he uncoils the contact, and once again we see that the legs are straightening out in the process. So as we could see, this concept is the same on the forehand, the one-handed backhand, and the two-handed backhand. This is a fundamental concept to master for you in order to generate effortless power on your topspin ground strokes.
Okay, so now let's talk about how you can work on this coiling and uncoiling motion for your own topspin ground strokes. The concept that I want you to think about is to sit down and then lift back up with your body. So that looks something like this. Sit down and then lift back up. And as you can see here with more of a neutral stance, my left leg straightened out. If I hit more of an open stance like this, then my right leg is going to straighten out more than my left leg. And the concept is the same for the forehand, the one-handed backhand, and the two-handed backhand. Now, the way I want you to practice is to start with some shadow swings, just like I showed you before. And you do that over and over. Think about sitting down and then lifting back up. And then the next step, you want to start hitting some balls, and I recommend that you self-feed balls in the beginning. Don't practice while you're playing. So you start by tossing the ball for yourself, and let me demonstrate that right now. On the forehand, that will look like this. I'm going to turn, sit down, and lift back up, and as you can see, the front leg completely straightened out. Let me demonstrate the one-handed backhand. Turn, down, and lift back up just like this. And now the two-handed backhand, again, I'm tossing it like this, down, and lift back up. And that's how you can practice that. Do that over and over. Now, I also recommend that you stay away from jumping in the beginning. As you could see, I did not jump off the ground, and that will happen later naturally as you deal with more difficult balls and high bouncing balls while you're playing. Last but not least, let me also say that this is a fundamental concept for your topspin ground strokes. Nevertheless, there are situations where it is not practical to lift back up. So for example, when you don't have a lot of time, or when the ball is really low, you simply focus on putting the ball back in play, and sometimes it's not possible to lift back up. All right, so much for now, and good luck on the court.